Baltimore's Inner Harbor is usually thought of as the scenic backdrop for waterfront entertainment, shopping, and dining. For more than a century, recreational contact with the water was made unsafe by legacy chemicals, sewage overflows, and trash. Recently, however, concerted effort by advocacy groups, business organizations, municipal upgrades to infrastructure have made the water cleaner than at any time in our lifetimes. imet and the National Aquarium are working together to visualize the life in the harbor as a way to reveal our connections to the planet's oceans and to produce scientific understanding of how cities can decrease their impact on natural systems. Underwater video clearly shows that there are many species of fish that visit the water between Piers 3 and 4. These are spot, which get their name for the dot right behind their gills. Striped bass, also called rockfish, are predators of smaller fish and migrate up and down the Atlantic coast. They appear in the harbor especially when they're chasing schools of juvenile menhaden. Mummichogs are another species of fish that many larger fish prey upon. These little guys eat almost anything, including algae, plants, fish eggs, and small crustaceans called amphipods. White perch are a species related to striped bass and are a favorite target for recreational fishermen. They like to stay in one area and don't migrate as far as menhaden or striped bass. Instead, they reproduce up creeks and rivers that feed into the bay. Menhaden are the most abundant fishery product in the Chesapeake Bay and spend part of their life in the Atlantic Ocean. They feed on microscopic algae in the water by swimming with their mouths wide open, as you can see here. Blue crabs are Maryland's official state crustacean and are seen in the harbor every summer. But, like striped bass and menhaden, the blue crabs in the harbor have actually come from far away. The crabs in these videos started their life as one of many fertilized eggs on the belly of a female crab somewhere on the Atlantic coast. These were carried for 2 weeks until they matured into larvae that are ready to hatch and be released into the ocean. The animal that hatched from those eggs looks nothing like a crab. This larval stage is called a zoea. It goes through 5 molts to grow from less than 1 millimeter to slightly more than 2 millimeters when it metamorphoses into a megalopa. The 2 millimeter long megalopa stage looks like a tiny lobster. It has claws and a tail. This developmental stage uses its sense of smell to know when it has drifted near the opening to a bay and then rides the tides up into the bay where it dives to the bottom. In the bay, the megalopes grows into the first true blue crab shape and begins its journey to less salty water up the bay, feeding on all types of plant and animal matter as it grows. Crabs grow by shedding their old shell, inflating their body by absorbing a lot of water, and then growing a new shell. You can see here in the inset how much a crab grows from one stage to the next. Every blue crab does this stepwise process about 20 times during its 1-year maturation period. By the time most crabs have migrated the 170 miles from the Atlantic Ocean to Baltimore, they are usually adults. Why would a crab travel 170 miles to be in Baltimore Harbor? They're probably following the smell of fresh water, which to them means that there are fertile waters that have a lot for them to eat. So, their presence suggests that Baltimore Harbor has food and habitat for them. What do crabs eat? Crabs are omnivorous, that is, they will eat plants, animals, and detritus. Anyone who has fished for them recreationally will know that they will even eat chicken necks. But what is there for them to eat in Baltimore Harbor? And for that matter, what are the fish eating in Baltimore Harbor? They're not here by accident either, so there must be something for them to eat. For example, these are gizzard shad nibbling algae off this cage. How can we get a better view of the food sources for crabs and fish in Baltimore Harbor? imet is working with National Aquarium, citizen scientists, and students from all over Baltimore to investigate the smaller animals that grow on surfaces in the harbor. Sailors and crab fishermen call these fouling organisms because they coat the surfaces of boats and traps. Ecologists call this a food web, and blue crabs just call it food. For our scientific study, we put out small discs of acrylic plastic in different parts of the harbor and let them accumulate these small organisms that naturally colonize any surface in the water. This is what the discs look like after only a month in the harbor. This gooey coating on the surface is actually a community of many different species, including algae, barnacles, and small crustaceans called amphipods. Each month, a team of scientists and volunteers collects the discs and checks water quality. After an entire summer in the water, the discs are coated with layers of life. Some of this we cut from the disc and use for genetic analysis later. This mud crab is one of the more charismatic animals that makes its home inside the community that grows up on the disc. The real discovery happens when we put the discs under a dissecting microscope and video record who is there. Up close, we discover that the gloppy stuff is actually a variety of tiny animals that make their living as suspension feeders. They eat single-celled algae, bacteria, protozoans, and particles of detritus. Here is a barnacle using its legs to draw food into its mouth inside the shell. These are called dark false mussels. They suck water into one siphon, filter out and eat the particles, and exhale the water out of the other siphon. These tiny things are called whip mudworms. They are using tentacles that grow from their heads to capture particles and pull them into their mouth. Even tinier still are colonial ciliates and bryozoans. The bryozoans here have filaments coming out to capture food. Small animals called amphipods graze on the biofilms and make their home here. Sometimes they battle for space. Other grazers are big enough to see without magnification and appear really huge under the microscope. This is a bristleworm. It eats algae and detritus. Back in the harbor, the aquarium also installs artificial habitats called biohuts. These are periodically opened up, and all of the animals that have taken refuge in them are identified and counted. Here, Alexandra is counting every animal from one biohut, and here, Chima and Alexandra are looking for bristleworms. In the harbor, these cage-like habitats provide refuge for fish, shrimp, and other small animals, and provide surfaces for marine invertebrates to grow on. Here you can see grass shrimp clinging to the biohut, plus algae and lots of dark false mussels, all ready to be part of the food web for fish like spot, perch, and striped bass. If you'd like to test your knowledge about harbor creatures, you can pause the video now or at any time and take the quiz on the web page below. At the end of this video, you'll see links for how you can help to clean up the harbor, how you can be a citizen scientist to generate data, and how to find out about opportunities for high school and college internships.